Where do you start with this student debt loan forgiveness? For crying out loud, most of the student debt is held by upper class white kids who got advanced degrees, whether they're masters or PhDs, at expensive universities like Harvard. Most people in America never went to college. Most people of color never went to college. They're the ones who are going to be footing the bill because nothing is free. If you forgive this debt, you're talking about anywhere from $300 billion a year to maybe $800 billion a year, meaning this is money that the Treasury will not get, and therefore other people won't get things that they otherwise would have gotten. I call this reparations for rich white people. Let's hear it for white supremacy. And Joe Biden was asked about this, had no real answer.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses if you want these guys to give them all a tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
What about people who paid their loans, though, struggled to pay their loans, and now others don't have to?
Is it fair to people that have, what did he say? Multi-million-dollar businesses who don't pay taxes? What does it have to do with canceling student debt? Let's hear that one more time, Mr. President.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses if you want these guys to give them all a tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
What about people who paid their loans, though, struggled to pay their loans, and now others don't have to?
Is it fair to those who don't have multi-million-dollar businesses who don't pay their taxes? So the reason you're canceling student debt is because there are people with multi-million-dollar businesses, says Joe Biden, who don't pay their taxes. What? How many times do we need to talk about this? Americans earning more than $350,000 or $400,000 or more pay 40% of all the federal income taxes. I repeat, the top 1% pay something like 40% of all the federal income taxes. Now, here's the problem. The problem is colleges are far more expensive than they would be if it weren't for the fact that the government is subsidizing all these loans. Think about it. Before the government got in the business of subsidizing college loans, you might have to go to a bank to borrow it. You go to a bank, I want to go to college XYZ. Banker goes, okay, what are you going to major in? Your answer, philosophy. What? Screenwriting. What? Archaeology. What? Says the banker. I have a sheet right here about the jobs of the future, and on there says nothing at all about people who major in philosophy or art history or archaeology. So your major is not going to provide you a job in your desired field. I'm not going to lend you the money. Then what would you do? You would rethink, recalibrate, and decide if you want to go to college, you're going to major in something where there's actually going to be a job, and that way you can get the loan. But by subsidizing all these kids, all you're doing is encouraging colleges to pile up more and more costs. That's why you find so many administrators. That's why you find departments of equity and diversity and all sorts of other nonsense, because the colleges know the more expensive the college is, the easier it is to get reimbursed by government. In fact, if you make college affordable, if you're a college administrator, you're going to lose millions of dollars that you otherwise would get in federal money, as this economist is trying to explain to CNN. Watch this.
The issue is debt cancellation might reduce the racial wealth gap between two rich doctors, a rich black doctor and a rich white doctor, but it actually widens the racial wealth gap overall because disproportionately people that hold student debt that went to college are white, and disproportionately people, the 87% of Americans that didn't go to college are disproportionately people of color. So this would actually widen the racial wealth gap overall. A more targeted approach would focus on fixing income-driven repayments, and more importantly, on getting college affordability in the first place. That means pushing colleges to accept more AP credits and transfers from community colleges, more no-frills degrees, cutting out some of their administrative waste. That's what we really need to do, is make college affordable, not send a $10,000 gift to people that already have, in many cases, advanced degrees.
the people that are most able to support this debt, rich, white people, are disproportionately benefiting from this loan forgiveness. That's why I have said this is really reparations for white people. Again, why don't we do something about why college is so expensive, he says. This is stunning. Now, there was a time when Nancy Pelosi even said government, the federal government, the president, did not have the legal authority to forgive this kind of debt.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. And I don't even like to call it forgiveness because that implies a transgression. It's not to be forgiven. Just freeing people from those obligations. So the question of who gets forgiven, to use the term of art that is out there, is a debate. Do we use whatever money there is for the broadest base of support of those with more people with even less debt or fewer people with more debt? That's a policy discussion. But the difference between the president can't do it. So that's not even a discussion. Not everybody realizes that, but the president can only postpone, delay, but not forgive.
That was Nancy Pelosi, July of last year. The president can't do that. Not everybody, she says, realizes this. Apparently, the president doesn't realize it because he's just done something that Nancy Pelosi said he did not have the legal authority to do. Now, an analysis of the plan from University of Pennsylvania, a left-wing institute, puts it at a price tag of $300 to $980 billion. And between 69 and 73% of the debt forgiven accrues to households in the top 60% of income distribution. Same conclusion by the liberal Brookings Institution. According to Brookings, quote, the highest income 40% of households, those with incomes above 75K, owe almost 60% of the outstanding education debt and make almost 3/4 of the payments. The lowest income 40% of households hold just 20% of the outstanding debt and make only 10% of the payments. Meanwhile, the students who took out these loans, as I said before, are better equipped to pay them off than many other American taxpayers. After all, what's the point in going to Harvard if the Harvard degree doesn't mean that down the road you're going to make more money? Now, this budget expert, the one on CNN, The Economist, also says these are forgiving people payments they already agreed to make. This is nuts.
Yeah, that's sort of the catch-22 of this all. We could send everybody another round of checks to pay for their inflation costs, but that would actually make inflation worse. What we need to do now is get inflation under control. One of the easiest ways to do that is to ask people to start paying back the debt they already owe, to start making the principal payments that they already agreed to.
We need to ask people to pay the debts they already agreed to, says this economist. Did I mention this is on CNN? And the National Review says within 4 years, overall debt will return to its present level. So this isn't reform, writes National Review. It's not even pretending to be reform. The net effect is that fewer people correctly calibrate whether college is worth it. And now fewer people will feel the need to save for college. After all, why save for college if I can just go BMW, that stands for blank, whine, and moan about my student debt, and have it just forgiven at the slide of a pen? And as I mentioned earlier, a disproportionately high percentage of this student loan forgiveness goes to the upper classes, most of which are white, wealthy people who attended expensive universities. And the NAACP is not happy.
NAACP President Derek Johnson called this BS for black people. He said this: President Biden's decision on student debt cannot become the latest example of a policy that has left black people, especially black women, behind. This is not how you treat black voters who turned out in record numbers and provided 90% of their vote to once again save democracy in 2020.
In other words, this bill is, wait for it, racist. One more time. Blacks are the most loyal part of the Democratic base, and the NAACP is arguing that much of this debt forgiveness goes to white upper-class people and not blacks. And they say it should have been more, $50,000 loan forgiveness. So even more white people would have had their loans forgiven. The NAACP didn't even say targeted towards lower income people. They just say, instead of it just being 10,000, make it 50,000. And a CNBC poll finds 59% of Americans believe that canceling student debt will make inflation worse. Also, 34% of those responding say only those in need should have debt forgiven, and 32% say all of those with student loan debt should be forgiven, and 30% say no debt should be forgiven at all. So you're talking about 64% believing either no debt should be forgiven or only those, quote, in need, close quote, should have their debt forgiven. But one more time, the bulk of those being forgiven are in the upper classes. The bulk of those are white, many of whom attended schools that are very expensive. And they're expensive, why? Because government has been subsidizing the cost, giving college administrators an incentive to add on more costs, which is why you find many more administrators, more and more administration, more and more departments that have nothing whatever to do with jobs, because after all, it doesn't matter. The government is going to pick up the slack. And as the Economist just now said to CNN, why don't we make college more affordable? Why don't we get rid of these heavy frills degrees? Why don't we get rid of these excessive administrators? We can't do that because if colleges did that, they would be foregoing millions of dollars in government loans that they would otherwise would get. So here's the catch-22. We jack up the price of Congress. We jack up the price of college, rather. Then you have members of Congress like Nancy Pelosi complaining about how expensive colleges are. And then they want to forgive debt, having jacked up the price of a college that caused the debt to be as high in the first place. Is this thing on? Thomas Sowell said, whenever there's some sort of government scheme, ask yourself 3 questions. How much is it going to cost? Who's going to pay? And will it, in fact, achieve the desired effect? The desired effect, I guess, is to lighten the load on those who have taken off student debt. Problem is, those who've taken the student debt are most capable of paying it. And those most capable of paying it are now being forgiven from the debt that they're capable of paying. Does any of this make any sense? By the way, the RNC put up a post about this ridiculous student debt scheme, and they got a notice saying that the post violated community standards. Big tech at it again. When we come back, turns out, according to FBI whistleblowers, senior officials ordered the FBI not to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop. But first, have you noticed the great Eldersky rarely leaves home without his MyPillow? I'm talking about this MyPillow. And you know what else? The great Eldersky uses MyPillow towels. They are soft. They are luxuriant. They come in different colors, but the most important thing is they actually work. They absorb water. And if you've not tried MyPillow slippers, you are missing out. They also have MyPillow Giza Dream bed sheets. Unbelievably comfortable. You can go to MyPillow.com, use promo code ELDER. You're going to find over 100 products. That's not inflation. 100 products that are available. Click on the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com and be sure and use promo code ELDER. and you're not getting this pillow, maybe I'll sign this one and give it to special people. By the way, hit like, hit subscribe, and click on the description below, and that way you'll be getting our mailing list. Why? Well, because YouTube has yet again been banning videos we tried to post. So if you want to get the Larry Elder Show unrestricted, without being banned, without being shafted by YouTube, click on the description and sign up so you can get our email list, okay? Now, back to Hunter Biden in just a second. Don't go away. There's a news site called Just the News by John Solomon. It is amazing. Here's one of their recent articles. FBI whistleblowers say senior officials ordered the Bureau not to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop. Are you kidding me? So first we have the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story that the New York Post broke a few days before the election. Twitter shut it down. Facebook shut it down. And the then Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, later on testified that he shouldn't have done it, that it was, quote, not great, close quote. Had the laptop story been allowed to have been published, no question, Donald Trump would have been reelected. Why? Because a study found 16% of Biden voters say had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop story, they would not have voted for Biden. And why is that? Because Biden has consistently said he knew absolutely nothing about his son's overseas business dealings. However, on the laptop, which has now been authenticated by the New York Times and the Washington Post, it points out that Joe Biden is referred to as the big guy and that he gets 10%. Also, we've talked to about Tony Bobulinski, the former longtime business associate of Hunter Biden, and he says Joe Biden absolutely knew about what his son was doing and that they had several meetings with Biden and Joe Biden's, Hunter Biden's business associates. And Tony Bobulinski said this, did a press conference, and nobody cared. Now, according to Just the News, FBI whistleblowers say that the Bureau's leaders were ordering agents not to investigate the laptop. This is according to a letter that was written by Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He sent the letter to the DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz asking that he investigate the matter. Here is what the letter said, and I'm quoting. After the FBI obtained the Hunter Biden laptop from Wilmington, Delaware computer shop, those whistleblowers stated that local FBI leadership told employees, you will not look at the Hunter Biden laptop. Let me repeat that. Local FBI leadership told employees, you will not look at the Hunter Biden laptop. And that the FBI, quote, is not going to change the outcome of the election again. Johnson's letter continues. I hope you understand that the longer your office stands on the sidelines and delays investigating the FBI's actions, the harder it will be for you to uncover the truth and hold individuals accountable for wrongdoing, end of quote. Well, if the FBI is ordering agents not to investigate the Hunter Biden laptop story, they don't care that it's going to be harder to uncover the truth because they don't want the truth to be uncovered. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.